Hello, everyone. Okay,
No.
welcome back to this week's After Church Tea Time. I'm Michaela.
And Jose?
And we're here with these guys, with Gabby and Nikki. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Nikki. Hi.
Yeah, so we're going to discuss this week's Sunday sermon, How to Experience the Love That You Desire by Abir. And I really loved this, this particular sermon. There's something that Alexandra said, like in the intro, where she was watching it and they realized that it's exactly what they were working on in their union. And it's the same for us too. Yeah, it's about intimacy and developing true intimacy with yourself and realizing that you don't experience intimacy from the outside, with another person. It has to be done from within. And I think this is a lesson that I've been learning for my entire twin flame journey. I think, especially like having my twin flame in my life, I realized that if you don't have intimacy within yourself, like it doesn't matter if your twin flame is next to you, it's not going to feel like very intimate. It will probably feel awkward. That's how we worked through that in the beginning, just like realizing all of this intimacy that we needed to develop within ourselves and how that was it's very real. So I really appreciated this, and I think it's in perfect timing with Valentine's Day. Yeah.
I feel like I can totally relate with the same thing that you said, Michaela, like with being like this theme being the theme of your twin flame journey. It has been like the same, and something I've been working through for a long time. And this sermon like brought a lot of clarity towards this, since I've had like this pattern of having moments that I'm intimate with God and I feel that, but then whenever I feel some uncomfortable feelings, I tend like to avoid them or not to give them the attention that they need, kind of pushing that away or not having patience. And it's all of this like spoke very, very well like to that pattern. And it's something that I've been trying to see, but as well avoid at the same time. And it was like just as a snap out of it moment. So yeah, I really appreciated the sermon as well.
Well, I guess I have something to say. Yeah, I was watching a class today just before the sermon premiered, and it was perfect for what Abir talked about how you love yourself and you're intimate with yourself by paying attention to yourself, and just by like holding your own hand when you don't feel good, because I think that's one of the biggest blocks to inner intimacy is like you feel bad, and so you're like, I don't want to feel this or look within, because that's kind of how we're raised to like approach our emotions, it's to just like ignore the problems and just focus on, what feels better. But that's not how you create real joy or romance in your life, is by numbing out the problems. And so, yeah, it was really beautiful that that's something that Jeff and Shaleia shared in that class, is you must hold your own hand and just pay attention to yourself, like if you feel depressed or if you feel angry, if you feel bad, like you don't have to, you have to be very intimate with yourself. And that's Abir quoted Shaleia, like intimacy. And that's true, it's okay. And once you start to really develop like a strong inner relationship with yourself and your feelings, I feel like that makes you feel more confident. It makes you feel like much more equipped to handle the challenges that are coming up. Feels good. Yeah,
it feels very good to be present with everything. And this is something that I really love about this work, and since the beginning, is that the more you listen to yourself, the more confident you feel, because you know that you are doing something right. You feel loved and supported by you, and that never goes away because you are constantly giving yourself your hand and listening to yourself, and you feel totally supported, totally loved. And when you are in that space, moving through things is so much easier because you know that you are there for you. And it doesn't matter what it is. You are cultivating that space of understanding, compassion, and you know that you are safe on whatever it is, no matter how ugly the feeling is or uncomfortable, you are there for you. And that's a very big deal. And when you feel that confident, your union feels very good because you can set into that trust that no matter what it is, it's okay. And you are moving through it.
Yeah, I think there's a quote from the first romance attraction course, Opening to Love. And then Jeff and Shaleia said, the romance that we desire, it exists purely within ourselves. I think a lot of times people get distracted with trying to find that romance, find that love, instead of kind of turning that focus inwardly and creating that romance and intimacy, which is then what manifests into, like what Abir was saying. I noticed once I did that within myself, things outside of me started changing. Relationships that were taking from me fell away. Relationships that wanted to give to me and were giving to me, like, began to pop up and like be more frequent. So it's just that little perspective shift, I feel, that is kind of the healing taking place collectively, because we're definitely moving through this as well in our union. And it's been really funny for me to see like how many areas of life it really impacts, because everything's connected. So I loved the quote that Abir shared about, speak to yourself as if you were your friend. And it doesn't just stop with like that making friendship with yourself, like it branches out into all of the other areas as well. Because once you're friends with yourself, you can make friends with your body and bring healing there. You can make friends with your finances and bring healing there, right? I don't think any, at least nobody I've met have had the perspective of like, I have a friendly relationship with my money, right? Like I love, like, through money, I'm friends with my money. I feel good when I spend money. I feel good when I receive money. There's a lot of wounds that happen there. And once we start making friends with ourselves and really truly connecting and being intimate and creating that safe space, is when we see that blossom and expand out into the rest of the areas in our life, and we're able to bring healing there as well.
Something that really stuck with me as well was when Abir said that I don't mind seeing anywhere where I don't feel bad because God will be there. So it's like really building confidence with ourselves and our relationship with God. And that since God is everything, then you manifest that intimacy and love everywhere in your life. It doesn't have a limit. So yeah.
Beautiful. And just saying hello to everyone, saying hello. But I think that's really beautiful. And I feel like this is how you put your relationship with God first. Like that's the teaching, is it's God and then you and then your twin flame. And and I think that's something that Jeff and Shaleia teach a lot, is that by putting God first, it's almost the same thing as putting yourself first. And just, being really present with all of the areas of your life. Like Gabby was saying, in your finances, like it's possible to feel really good about your finances, when you do it with God. But at any time that you're trying to do something external, or it doesn't bring you joy and you're not satisfied. So I think it's just like, I feel like I personally have been going deeper with what it really means to put God first. And it is just being constantly present with your feelings and being intimate with yourself and developing confidence from that space of just always being with God and like always checking in with God when you are going to make any decision, you know, and that's really how you do develop confidence. And that's something Abir mentioned at the beginning, I think, is developing confidence. And there's one more thing. But yeah, it reminds me of this quote that Jeff and Shaleia shared at one point, is that the way you know you're doing it right with your twin flame, when you're intimate with them, the same way that you're intimate with yourself. Like there's no difference between the way you speak to yourself on the inside and how you share with your twin flame. So yeah, and it does require a lot of vulnerability. So you have to practice, and honesty, which is something that Laurentia and Alexandra shared. Being with your twin flame, like it can be challenging, you know, when you're not used to opening up. You know, if you didn't, for me specifically, like I did not grow up in an environment where opening up was safe in any way. And I don't think anyone really did. And, you know, so yeah, like it's challenging, but it's really, really beautiful when you do hit that deeper level of intimacy through being that way with God and yourself. And then your twin flame is naturally there with you in that space. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And it's beautiful that your twin flame pushes you to heal into that space of being vulnerable, because once you can open with them, like you can open with God, that's very powerful, because you can look at everything and really change very fast and really love yourself in ways that you never knew possible. Like Abir mentioned, like you can be friends with your finances, and when you're everything in your life, that's a huge deal. When you can be so intimate with yourself that you can expand that connection to everything that you do, because you are going to feel God everywhere in everything that you do, and you are just expanding that. And I love that this is the core of the teaching, but you are always going deeper with it. It's like never ending. And that is a very cool thing, because you are always getting more and getting more connection, more romance, intimacy. And yeah, it feels good to do it.
I feel like something else about the sermon that stuck with me was when Abir was mentioning how we've like grown up, and it's the same for me, that we've grown up with our parents like saying us like to be polite and not be honest with how we feel, and just like with the fear of hurting the other person or sounding rude or being seen as rude. And I feel like it's the same, but something that I'm how to say, I'm healing and I'm transcending, because I'm like, I choose not to accept that kind of brain kind of gaslighting that I do to myself, like trying to lie to myself or compromise in ways that don't feel good at all to me. And that's something that keeps us stuck as well.
I love that. That's great that you brought that up, Nikki. That's so true, because it's so deeply like ingrained in, I think, like just humanity, is that you should always feel responsible for other people and their feelings, and like you should like put other people first, you know, in that way, even if it means like you have to betray yourself and like what's actually true. So yeah, when you choose to live an intimate life with God and within yourself, you can just be that and express that authentically. And if it triggers someone else, then you can like let go of the guilt, you know, like it's really safe to let go of guilt, because you're not harming them, you're loving them. And even if they don't see it that way, it doesn't mean that you're not loving them. So yeah, I loved that part of the sermon. Yeah,
I remember Jeff and Shaleia shared a post in one of the groups that said something like, when people are not used to straight communication, they get, I don't remember exactly, but they get very triggered or defensive.
It's like aggression.
Exactly, they think it's aggression. And yeah, this is like super common in the journey, because the more you align yourself with truth is aligning with honesty, and you need to be honest with what the truth is. And this is something that society doesn't really teach you, how to be totally honest and speak the truth. And it's very easy to get triggered by that. but you can realize that that is helping everyone. Speaking the truth cannot harm anyone, only love them, because they are signing the truth over whatever illusions or lies they are holding. And that is really loving and really real connection. And even in your union with people, if you are honest, you can have intimacy. Because if you are not really honest, how can you trust the other person, or how can you be intimate with them? Because you don't know what's going on. But if you trust a person to be honest and tell you the truth, that's very relieving, because you relax and know that this person is honest with me. I love that. It's like I can trust them because I know they speak the truth, even if it's uncomfortable for me. You said something about Yogananda.
That quote.
Yeah, saying that a loving person, how was it?
I can just read it. I have it literally right here.
It's very good.
Yeah, it says real love is when you are constantly watching the progress of the soul. As soon as you cater to someone's physical desires and bad habits, you are not loving that soul anymore. You are just pleasing that person to avoid ill will. No matter how unpleasant it is to tell a friend that he is wrong, if you say it with love in your heart and stand firm on it, sometimes that person will respect you. If you are right, if you are wrong, even then he will know that you did it with sincerity out of love. Yeah, that's Yogananda. Yeah,
that's very beautiful.
Well, yeah, I think that's why I appreciate, Jeff and Shaleia's teachings, is that's a fundamental foundational key of living in harmonious union is honesty. And I that is how Jeff and Shaleia, as our spiritual gurus, for me, have developed so much trust with me, because I know they're always going to be honest, even if it triggers me or upsets me. And it helps me to do that for my own, in my own life, in my relationships. And
yeah, that's very healthy. Like, I don't know how many times we experienced being honest with someone, and we are so afraid of the relationship falling apart. But it's when you are honest that the relationship totally shifts. And it's like, wow, this person now is respectful, and they realize how to relate to me. And you are surprised because you expect everyone to be triggered, but you are transforming. And it's like, wow, this feels so good now that I'm choosing honesty in my relationships. And yeah, that is very common. They transform when you love them. And this is part of loving them, is bringing the truth to a relationship, basing it on God. And that's how you have permanent relationships, and relationships that feel very good in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how she was talking about that like intrinsic filtering of information that happens just because of how we were raised and what we go through, and that kind of politeness that's been ingrained in us. And I realized as she was talking that kind of our maybe gut reaction to pad the truth with like something that we feel is more digestible is actually what tears the trust away to begin with. Because like you can kind of sense when someone's not being completely honest with you. And I think that happens within us as well. We can sense when we're not being like fully honest with ourselves about something. And then that trust can't be built. And one like really funny example that came into my brain as Abir was talking was this coworker that I have that is like very well known for speaking their mind, right? And it doesn't matter if like they're right or wrong or like talking crazy, like you always know what you're going to get with that person. And because of that quality, like they have a great relationship with everyone because everyone knows that they can trust that person because they're honest, they're authentic. It doesn't matter where they are or who they're talking to. Like they're the same person with everyone. They don't change who they are based on who they're talking to, which I think is something that a lot of people develop as kind of like a coping mechanism as they go through life. They kind of change like what words they use or how they say it or like what things they communicate based on their audience, right? But just recognizing within yourself, like where you're doing that to yourself is so healing, because you allow yourself to kind of strip back those filters and masks that you've built up over time, which have created this distrust and this resistance to being vulnerable. And that was just like really beautiful for me listening as I was going through that process of really finding that honesty within me and becoming more aware of those places where I wasn't being fully honest, because like I was afraid that the truth would be too painful or something, you know? So that was just really like, I really enjoyed how she interweaved that into how we connect with ourselves and romance ourselves and become more intimate with ourselves. That's a very key component in that healing.
Yeah, I agree. And what I've noticed when like you finally are just your total self, like in our relationship, for example, when I finally just, like this happened a lot in the beginning and healing like deeper traumas together and past relationship issues where I would be afraid to express something to my twin flame. And I wouldn't say it because like it was just this pattern like that I had from childhood where it was just like, it was better not to be honest because, it was just keeping the peace, but it's the complete opposite. Yeah, the peace. But it's the complete opposite in your union. Like, are we okay? Yeah, I was gonna say like when you're not, something needs to be said and expressed, and when you finally do it, no matter how uncomfortable it is, it's like so much relief, and you can actually like, it's like you literally in that moment go deeper into like romance and attraction and intimacy together, and it's really beautiful. And so I feel like a part of our relationship and like the biggest healing is being fully open with each other. And I know in my heart when there's something that I need to say and I'm like, oh God, like this is so uncomfortable, but I know like it needs to be said. And I always do it and it's never that bad. It's like you make it scary in your head. But
it's in your mind.
Yeah.
But once you have the conversation, you go deeper because you can trust the other person.
And you usually have the peace for me.
Yeah, exactly. You are making it so difficult in your mind. And once you finally express it, it's like, okay.
Yeah, and then you'll say something and I'm like, oh, like that was not, I was like this catastrophic thing, when I was like not expressing it. But when I finally just shared, and it doesn't have to be that with your twin flame, like just whoever you're, wherever you're at in your union or whoever you're speaking to, like being honest is the way, being authentic and having the intimacy with other people. It's just being honest. And I like what you said, Gabby, about the friend who's just like so open and honest, and it makes them very trustworthy. I had a friend like that in high school that like she had many things that were like, I guess, I don't know, flaws or whatever, but like she like I don't want to be rude. She was one of my favorite friends because she had that quality. Like no matter who she was with, she was her, and she had many like faults and like things about her, but like of all my friends, like I trusted her the most because she was always just completely honest and authentic. And it was inspiring for me because I remember like when I was very young, I would say like maybe first grade, I realized that I changed my personality when I would talk to my teachers or my parents or my friends. And I was like, why? Like as a child, that doesn't actually feel good. Like you notice that something's off. And so like it's been a constant journey of learning to, you don't have to change who you are depending on, who you're speaking to. Like, of course you do like have a unique and individual relationship with everyone and you treat everyone, appropriately, but like you're still always yourself. So
what is you? That's something beautiful. And I also moved through this in all my life, I said, and it is something that makes you very uncomfortable when you are when you're with friends and another person with these other friends, and then with your family, and then with these people, and you are like a split.
Yeah, it's like an energy.
It's like very draining because you cannot really relax. I remember that was a fear that I moved at the beginning of joining the community because I knew that I wasn't really accepted on my spiritual side. And I was like, well, I must keep the spiritual side here and the friends side here and all of this. But that was very uncomfortable. I was like, at some point, you know what? I ain't done with hiding.
You got a profile picture.
I ain't done with this fake name. That's it. Let's be me. And if someone doesn't like it, I'm sorry, I cannot keep it any longer. And that moment, it was so relieving for me. I was like,
yeah,
finally, this is me, period.
Yeah.
Like, this is finally freedom, because I don't need to act like someone that I'm not. And that truly reveals the relationships that love you in your life and the ones that are only attachments to an old version of you. And that feels very draining. But if you are only you experience only relationships with you, your true self. And that feels very, very good.
Yeah. And just one more thing about that, like Jose was almost kicked out of the forum because they thought he was a troll account. Like they thought because he didn't have a Facebook name real. I mean, it was like Jose Flame. So it seemed like this, and he had no profile picture. When you clicked on his profile, no posts. But I knew he was real because we had like a consultation. So I was like, no, don't kick him out. Like he's a real student. So funny. But like when you finally did update your profile picture, that was actually one of the ways that I realized he was my twin flame, because it was a picture of him feeding like some deer, which is one of my spirit animal that I asked God to like show me to guide me to my true twin flame. And so it's like when you're just yourself, and you stop hiding, like you open yourself up to these miracles and you don't get kicked out, like misrepresenting yourself. So just a cute little story.
Yeah, it was funny. I remember that moment. I was like commenting in somewhere and someone told me, Jose, what about a picture? And it was like, you know what? You are right. Boom.
Yeah.
And that was very beautiful moment.
Yeah. And you can still see that picture and everyone commenting like, wow,
you're
a picture,
real.
You're real. There's a face, like it was just so sweet. So yeah, safe to be authentic.
The other thing that came up while I was watching the sermon, actually even before the sermon, something I was thinking about kind of last night as I was working through some healing pieces, was just like how misinformed we've been about what romance even is, and intimacy as well. It goes hand in hand. And as I was like kind of deepening into that awareness, I like looked up the definition of romance and just laughed, because it is so like poorly defined in so many different places. I think I had clicked on like 6 different reference points before I even found a definition that I was like, oh no, like that resonates. Like that's for sure, romance. But it took 6 tries to get there. And I was just like, whoa, like, how is that even possible? That we are so confused about what romance even is. So actually, I think I still have some of them pulled up.
Yeah, I'm curious.
The top one that popped up was a feeling of excitement and mystery associated with love, a quality of feeling of mystery, excitement, and remoteness from everyday life. And I was like, what? And then it was like to entertain romantic thoughts or ideas, a love affair, especially in an intense and happy but short-lived affair involving young people. Romantic love idealized for its purity or beauty, a close relationship between 2 people who are in love with each other, a feeling of comfort and pleasure. One of them even says a romance is a relationship between 2 people who are in love but not married to each other. A love affair is like one of the top definitions, like a love affair, an idealized love story, an intimate or passionate affair between 2 people. I was just like, wow, no wonder we're so confused about what on earth romance even is. Because like you literally read half a page of misinformation before you're even like, what is happening?
It's true. And like in the movies, like it's all this very exciting and high and like passionate, type of thing that actually burns you out.
Yeah.
But actually, I think Shaleia in Romance Attraction says that their definition of romance is the love that you invest into the relationship with yourself and, you know, your partner. It's like the love you invest into it, and that's what creates the romance.
Yeah, she said that peace is first and then romance. You don't want passion first and peace, you want peace, and then passion and romance. And I think this is the reason that a lot of people have confusion about what twin flames really are, because they try to get this and put it into their union, a fantasy, and it doesn't work, because when you have the real thing before you, but your mind is all in those concepts, you don't see it, you cannot tell the difference. But when you really start to understand what romance is, it's like, wow, this is different. This is not what I saw in, you know, all the people that I met before. It's something new. And yeah, it's about changing all of those concepts to really, yeah, experience the thing that you want.
Yeah, the one definition I read that I was like, oh yeah, no, that for sure is one of the definitions said it is the expression of love.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, no, that resonates. It is for sure like the divine expression of love. And like you were saying, it's how you're investing that love, right? How are you investing that love into yourself? How are you investing it into your work, into your life, into your relationships? That's the romance. That's the divine kind of expression of love that truly is romance. And it is peaceful. It feels deeply peaceful and grounding. So it was like a stark contrast between that, oh no, that's what it is for sure, to like all of these definitions I was reading that just felt chaotic and like excitement, you know, essentially, which isn't based in peace. So
I just wanted to add, like, this is why it's important to have like real gurus about twin flames and Jeff and Shaleia, because they actually teach you how to have this romance with yourself, because they have it, they've gone through it. So, and not have like this fantasy and like really ground and have it permanently. So yeah.
I agree with that. And like, I think this is why some people can be very numb to real romance and almost find it boring.
Yeah.
But it's not boring. It's just that you have to like calm down and like relax, you know, and like really ground and
then you have the high.
Yeah, and then you can have like a very passionate romance, but it has to be with God on the inside first. It's not like this external thing based on how like hot you are, or like how, you know, good your body is or whatever, like all these things. Yeah, it's like an inner thing. And like there is a class that I watched where Shaleia said like this is why people sometimes have trouble in like identifying their twin flame or like accepting that they're your twin flame. And it's almost like this Beauty and the Beast type thing where it's like, because you're not used to, like, society does not teach you how to see and recognize them, their heart and their soul, you know, it's not the physical, it's not their body.
Yeah, that's,
you know, and that is where people get really tripped up on. And, you know, it's not about the body, and their body is attractive to you, but it's like an inner thing first, you know, once you really,
it's like, a soul connection.
Yeah, it's a soul connection. Check comments. Granville sent a laughing emoji to the definitions. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, it's really good awareness that like the piece is not boring, it's just not exciting, you know, and it doesn't like desensitize you at all. Like it makes you very sensitive to like very subtle things. And I think that's part of real romance and intimacy, and why like going within yourself and like being very present with your feelings, and not, you know, like Abir was saying in the sermon, like you can just give yourself, like treat yourself like a friend who comes to you for help, you know. Like when she said that, I thought about that. Or like if I had like a client or a friend or like a family member coming to me with the upset that I'm having, I would not be hard on them. Like I would be very compassionate and very loving and gentle, and like, you know, like that's, you can treat yourself that way. And I feel like that, like that heals you And then you no longer need the excitement to like satisfy you, because that's not really satisfying. It's just you get high and then you crash, and there's no stability.
There is a price to pay
Mhm.
for that high.
Yeah.
Yeah, you feel like you are getting somewhere, but then you come back and you really never move. And that is not really intimacy, because you get something, but you come back, and then you get the something again, and you come back.
Yeah.
And at the end, it gets very boring and draining, and you don't get anywhere.
Well, overall, like Jeff and Shaleia have said, like when you get high like that, like overall, it actually makes you lower on average than it does high. Like it takes from you. So yeah, that's why peace is so important.
Yeah.
Peace first. Okay, some comments. Okay. I know I don't have the peace, like nothing's coming to me. So yeah.
One other quote that has kind of been hanging out in my consciousness as I'm like moving deeper into it is from, I believe it's the second class of romance attraction, instant attraction. And the quote says, a big piece of having instant attraction is about seeing ourselves as whole. So like one energy that I've been noticing pop up more and more and more recently is just this kind of feeling like I'm not complete without my other half or my other person. I'm not complete. And that energy is really kind of polarizing and kind of pushes away that divine love, that divine romance that you're truly seeking, because it's like not honoring yourself as being whole. And it's not, you know, truly romancing yourself and investing your love in yourself. It's more based in the external of clinging to something that you think you need or that you want really badly, instead of bringing all of that loving focus into your internal reality and healing through kind of why you're not feeling whole to begin with. What is it you think this other person could give you? And really kind of building that awareness and going within to find those pieces of yourself that are kind of fragmented right now and not feeling whole, and investing that love internally within you to bring that romance and intimacy that you're desiring so deeply, and just understanding that you have the power to bring that to yourself and heal that within you so that you are able to experience and enjoy that in your life, in all of your relationships.
Yeah, it's like important to like go to God, right? Like when you're feeling that need to go to your twin flame to get something wholeness from them, you know, like that actually like squeezes the life out of the relationship, and your twin flame just sets a boundary and tells you to go to God. But it's really about learning that like it's really God that fulfills you in that deep way, you know, that wholeness that you really desire. It's with God on the inside, and then your twin flame is able to be there in that space with you, you know, and kind of reflect to you that wholeness. But yeah, like you can always go deeper with God. And even when you're in union with your twin flame or harmonious union, like you still don't get to just like throw God out the window, you know. We've seen that pattern happen throughout all the years. Like you have to be on top of it, you know, and be with your, you know, remember it's always about God. It's never about your twin flame or even about you, you know, it's about God. Yeah.
Yeah, that inner awareness piece is something that I've been moving much deeper into. And just recently in my life, it's like I'm witnessing the same kind of pattern in my relationship to food, because I've been doing a lot of healing like around food and kind of like what my body truly needs versus what I've just been conditioned to want or do with food. And one of the things that I've been healing around is sugar. And so just building my awareness of like when I'm craving sugar and what that is actually doing to my body, and also like in my mind, of being more aware of kind of like the sugar angel and the sugar devil, right? Of like, you need sugar, you deserve sugar, you should have sugar, right? And I think we do the same thing in all areas of our life where we're like, oh yeah, I'm going to have sugar right now because there's this thing that I want and I believe sugar can give it to me, right? So just like, it's really that awareness piece of noticing intentionally what choices you're making on a regular basis and what you're hoping to gain from them. Because in truth, like it's not sugar that gives you comfort. It's not, you know, any of those things except God, right? And when you realize that you have the power to find all of those things and get them from God directly, it heals a lot of those relationships in your life, whether it's with your body, with your friends, with your twin flame, with your finances. Once you understand why you're making the choices you're making and what's motivating those choices, like the path forward becomes so much more clear because you're like, oh, like that's really not a good use of my time or my money, or like, why am I investing in something that doesn't serve me? And it just heals that relationship so that all of the things that you are investing your love into are giving back to you as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I believe this is why it's very important, like, to take our time and really like feel our feelings and connect to that inner part of our consciousness that needs that attention and we really like need to sit down and hear that part of ourselves to really know what's going on there and not like avoid.
Yeah, that reminds me of I'm watching the classes. I've started them over recently in order, and it's funny because like I'm in alignment with the season. Like I was watching the Christmas class during Christmas, and then now we're on Valentine's Day. You know, I just hit the Valentine's Day classes, and that's when Jeff and Shaleia got their Porsche. And I remember the first time that I saw these classes, I didn't get it in the same way, because one thing they said is like, it's not about the Porsche, it's about what it represents in our relationship with God. You know, it's about having more God in our lives. And it's not the Porsche that brought us this fulfillment, it's God. And Jeff in this class was sharing the healing that he did the night before, just before they got their Porsche, is that he felt this lack within his life. And he was like, nothing's going to fill this lack. Like, it doesn't matter how much money I have or anything. And Shaleia was like, well, you're just calling in more God. That's amazing. You know, it's God that you have to give yourself. And so they healed that and they, you know, gave themselves God. And then just after that, the next day is when God gave them the Porsche. And it was this like miraculous experience of like getting approved when they didn't think they should have been approved, and they got the best deal possible, you know, and like they didn't go in there expecting that. And we've experienced similar things where it's like, when it's time, it's time. When it's time for you to upgrade, because that's what actually appropriately reflects your relationship with God, like you will. But it's not getting the car or getting, you know, whatever it is that, like when you put the external thing first, like that's very empty, and that creates a life of emptiness. And then you're constantly like striving for more, or like sugar. I resonate with that too. I love sweet things, but like it's not it, you know, like if God is guiding you to have sweet sugar things, like that's different. But yeah, I just thought it was so beautiful. And I just thought it was like a cool little sync that it's like right in time for Valentine's Day. It's the same topic that Abir talked about today in the sermon. So it just seems to be something we're all really going deeper with. You know, it's, you get that fulfillment and that satisfaction and that joy from God, and then your reality shifts to represent that, you know, an external thing that represents that inner thing, and it gives to you, you know, like it adds value to your life. But it's an inner thing first. And that's the difference between like being materialistic, which does cause suffering, and putting God first, which relieves suffering. And you still get the cool material things that you wanted all along.
Yeah, you get both.
But it's with God, you know? So, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we are coming up on the 45-minute mark. So do you guys have any closing thoughts or anything else you'd like to share, say about the sermon today and this topic?
I just love so much that she kind of closed out the sermon with rely on your source, not on yourself.
Mhm.
I thought that was a very key component to kind of bring it all back together of like the message of love coming through. Like, you're not alone. You don't have to do it alone. You can't get all of these things that you're desiring from yourself. It's not possible.
Yeah,
Right.
so true. And when you try, like, it's miserable. It
Yeah.
causes misery when you try to do that for yourself.
Yeah. And then you just like everything crumbles away and then you have to rebuild it and then it crumbles away and then you rebuild it. Right. And it just feels like you can't move forward. And it's because you are not going to your source to build the solid foundation to begin with.
Yeah. Good point.
I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day. And like, no matter where you're at with, you know, with your twin flame or anywhere in life, like, you can celebrate this day with God. And
You
it's
always
just,
have God.
yeah, you always have God. Like, you can romance yourself in any way, you know, whatever it is you like to do. Like in the Valentine's Day class I'm watching, like Shaleia shared about on her last Valentine's Day, she didn't have a lot of money, but like God guided her to go take herself out to lunch and go see a movie. And like, you know, it was just a really beautiful day that she spent with God. You know, whatever it is that you enjoy doing, you know, just do it. You never have to wait. And yeah. So I feel complete. Do you guys have anything else that you'd like to share?
Complete.
Good. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. And thank you to Abir for this wonderful Sunday service sermon. It was a beautiful topic. And we'll see you guys all next time.
See you. Bye.
Bye.